Hey everyone, so today I wanted to showcase my build, my Whirling Twister, Deadeye, Destruction, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot of fun, it's really fast, so I'm going to show you how I play it, and then I will show you some alternate ways to build it, some of the meta ways involving weapon swapping, etc. So let's get right into the showcase. We can just throw in a random tier 15. I like having one safety portal just in case. Now, something I absolutely hate is when someone showcases a build and it's like, oh, look how good my build is. Meanwhile, they've invested 600 divines into it. So for this showcase, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off my gloves. We can see my DPS. Use that. Take off my rings as well. So there goes 1/3 of my DPS. I have these backup rings that just have resistance, so I don't get a one-shot. And we can see I lost about 1/3 of my DPS. So let me showcase this. Scaled down just a little. Also, by not using weapon swaps, I'm effectively losing 24 skill points. So we are leaving a lot of damage on the table. 350 tribute. What? That was kind of low. So this build plays, I just kind of run into enemies and I act surprised when I get punched in the face. Without my rings, I'm not sustaining mana. We will go over mana sustain when I explain how to build the build. Abysses are a little dangerous. But there's one more rare. We have this abyss over here. So right now, this build is effectively at half speed and half damage. So, yeah, definitely there is room for improvement. And you can see just how fast it is. We just run in, we kill everything, we run out. I think I'll showcase one more ritual and then I'll just jump to the boss. I mean, the clear is the same for the middle part of the map and the end part, so we don't need to see the entire clear. We'll do this ritual. And then we will jump into the boss and we can see what the DPS is like. Before the boss, we do have a breach here, so I thought I'd showcase that. And I mean, it's pretty much the same as just mapping. We go fast, we spin, and everything dies around us. I'm stuck. Still stuck. I can't move. And you can see the survivability is pretty good. Again, I'm just running face first into enemies. Oh, a little bit of lag. I'm just running face first into enemies, and yeah, we are still able to level. I have XP level 95, working on level 96. Oh, and we have a boss here, so we can see the damage. Again, it is not a multi-million damage build, but still the damage is decent, and you can take this even farther with weapon swapping and a dedicated damage sets. Okay, so we will go over gems, gear, and then the passive tree. So for the skills we're using, we use Whirling Slash at level 1. Why? This does virtually no damage and we use it specifically for movement, so you do not need any levels in your Whirling Slash. If you want to get some levels, get it to a level that you can infinitely sustain using it with your mana regeneration. And for the gems we use, the most important one is Rigwald's Ferocity. This is going to give you 20% more attack speed while you use this skill with weapon set 1. So attack speed and cast speed, that is our movement. And then we have Rage 3 for even more attack speed while not at maximum rage, and each rage gives us a little bit of attack damage, 1%. 30 rage stacks is max, so this is 30% more attack damage for Twister. We have Knockback, this is just for survivability. You hit enemies, it knocks them back a little, you're gonna get hit less. We have a 35% increased attack speed equals movement speed, and we don't care about damage. And then I go with Magnified Area, just so the AoE is a little bit larger, it's going to hit more enemies, we're going to generate more rage, which we turn into attack damage. Next we have Twister. Twister, that is the damage. So what we are using is Stoicism. This increases your damage by so much. We see 96,000. If I drop this, we just lost 16,000 damage. We don't need to worry about dodge rolling or using a travel skill because Whirling Slash is all of our movement. And if you do occasionally need to dodge roll, in 10 seconds you're going to get this damage boost back. Next we have Heft, 30% more maximum physical hit damage, so just damage. We have supported skills deal 20% more damage. We have supported skills have 40% more projectile speed, and increases and reductions to projectile speed also apply to projectile damage. Projectile speed is good because we want the Twisters to travel fast, we want them to hit more enemies, we want them to hit enemies around corners, and we want them to hit enemies multiple times. And then we have Salvo. So if you see that I have a little 3 over here on my Twister, so every couple of seconds, Twister is going to gain a seal, and each seal increases the number of projectiles the skill has. So in this case, we're going to get so many more Twisters, and the final active skill we use is Barrage. So we can see empowered attacks repeat +2 times, and a further 1 time per frenzy charge. I have done away with stacking frenzy charges, or any charges with this build. It is just raw damage. So actually, I could drop this now. Supported skills have a 25% chance to not remove charges, and it looks like I can also drop heightened charges. The only 2 supports you need in Barrage are 30% increased cooldown recovery rate, and supported skills have 20% increased cast speed. So cast speed is good because you're going to cast Barrage faster, you're not going to get held in place for a longer period of time. And the combo plays out, you travel with Whirling Slash, you see a group of enemies, you press Q, that's going to activate Barrage, and then you right click, and you just send out a whole bunch of Twisters and everything dies. Pretty simple, only 3 buttons you need to press, and that is the type of build I like. And now we'll go into Spirit Reservation. So we are using Herald of Thunder. You saw all of those bolts of thunder coming down, hitting enemies, just smiting them. Elemental Armament for increased damage. I'm using Precision. You can put this anywhere you want, but this is just going to give you 50% increased accuracy rating, and we convert accuracy rating into attack speed. And then Deadly Heralds for 30% more damage, increased area of effect, and 25% more elemental damage. I have 146 Spirit. You can make this build work with 100 Spirit, and that's going to save you a little bit of currency when purchasing gear. So if you only have 100 Spirit, you can drop a little bit of accuracy rating, also drop Deadly Herald. And then in Ghost Dance, I also have 50% less Ignite duration on you, and you can drop that, and you can see we are now at 90 total Spirit reserved. And then we have Ghost Dance, so whenever we are hit, we gain energy shield equal to 7% of our evasion. That is why this build is so tanky. You run face first into enemies, if they hit you, you're still at max energy shield. And we combo that with Wind Dancer for even more evasion. And for Ghost Dance, what you need is supported skills have 35% less skill effect duration, and that is going to make the time in between gaining Ghost Shrouds shorter. And then Wind Dancer, this is all just utility. We're going to use Punch Through, so if we get hit, it's going to apply Easy Target on knockback. And we can see easy target is a debuff, which causes the next projectile attack hit against the affected target to deal increased damage. Combo that with maim. This is going to slow the enemies and reduce their evasion rating, further increasing your accuracy against them. We have Blind, which is going to reduce the enemy's accuracy rating, so that if you get hit and Wind Dancer procs, it's going to knock back the enemies, and it's going to make them less accurate so that future hits are less likely to hit you. And Twister, it also blinds enemies, so we are kind of like double stacking this, but if you run into a group of enemies and they punch you in the face, you get staggered, maybe you don't get your Twisters off, so this is just an extra layer. And then we have magnified area so that the knockback is just a little bit larger and it's going to hit more enemies. Alright, so that is all of the skills we're using. So now we'll take a look at the gear. So of course the most important thing are resistances, and decent weapons are semi-affordable. So if we open the in-game trade market with /, we can add level of projectile skills. Let's say we want that to be minimum 4. And then we want DPS. This is a 500 damage per second spear. Oh, and if you ever want to see the DPS on a weapon, you can put it up for sale, list anything you want for like 10 mirrors, and then you can see the DPS on a weapon. So this is my spear, and I listed it for 64 divines. I just wanted to see the DPS on it. So little trick there. So for a budget spear, let's say we want, I don't know, 300 physical DPS, maybe a little bit of elemental DPS, so we'll do 400 damage per second total, with 4 levels to all projectile skills, and we can search specifically for spears. And I mean, 15 exalts, 20 exalts, these are so affordable, whereas if we increase this to 5, they're still super affordable. I'd recommend getting something like this if you're just testing out the build. And then for the rest of my gear, it is specifically an energy shield helmet, and I have double resistance with rarity. On my body, I have double resistance, big evasion, and gain deflection equal to some percent of my evasion rating, and this is also where I'm getting my spirit. Again, you don't need spirit, but if you can get it, take it. Now, as for belts, I highly recommend investing a divine into a giga belt, 35% all res, so we can check for belts, 35% resistance in all, 5 orbs, that's like what, 1 2/3 of a divine, 2 divines, 2 divines. You want 2 charm slots, preferably. 2 divines, 2 charm slots, 35 in everything at least. I highly recommend getting a really good belt because you can get 120+% resistances on a belt, and that is going to make filling out all of your other slots so much easier. But if you can't, you can easily settle for a 30% all belt. A lot of people are listing things for orbs of annulments. We can just search for exalted orbs. 100x for a 30+% resistance in everything. That's not too bad. Definitely invest in something like that. And then for boots, we're using a unique pair of boots, Wake of Destruction. Now these are crucial because we can see my whirling slash. See how it's like normal? As soon as we start walking, the whirling slash is going to pick up the lightning. So we can see drops shocked ground while moving. It lasts 8 seconds. And after the whirling slash picks up lightning, when we use our twisters, they are also going to be empowered with lightning, and this is so much damage. These are absolutely crucial. And when you buy these, get a big corruption for added resistance, preferably, 25% in whatever you need. And for gloves, now this is where things start getting a little expensive. My gloves have triple damage. Again, on a budget, I would recommend settling for 2 added damage types, preferably physical and lightning. we have increased attack speed and then a little bit of resistance. Again, you want attack speed because the more attack speed you have, the faster you will move. And then finally, my amulet is just rarity and 3 level to all projectile skills. This is super expensive. Settle for +2 level to projectile skills. I would recommend getting attributes and preferably maybe all res if you can. Attributes is just super useful to have so that you don't get stat locked when trying to switch gear around, so you definitely want some of that. And then for rings, we have, again, just added damage, rarity, elemental resistance, and we have physical attack damage leached as mana, and this is so much sustain. So in that map, you saw that I was losing mana because I wasn't using this ring. However, if I was using this ring, because this is primarily a physical base damage build, you have infinite mana effectively. You will never run out of mana with Mana Leech. And this is great because it works on bosses. So the more damage you do, the more Mana Leech you will have, the more Life Leech you will have, if you have that stat as well. My final ring, just added damage, rarity, resistances. Finally, the only 2 charms you really want are immunity to freeze and immunity to stun. Because getting frozen or getting stunned, you literally won't be able to do anything while you just get swarmed by 50 enemies and then you just die instantly. The last charm slot, completely up to you. And now for the skill tree. Now this build, you could probably make this work if you start over here, if you start with this class, or even if you start with this class. You can see just how quickly you could path into my current build path. Because the ascendancy for the Deadeye, like, yes, it's useful. We have Tailwind, so that's going to give you skill speed, movement speed, and evasion, but it's not like crucial to making this build work. We have 3% less damage taken per Tailwind, so a little bit of survivability. We have a little bit more damage, and we have an additional projectile. But when we fire 400 projectiles, adding 1 to that, not super impactful. Even if you didn't start as the ranger, even if you don't have this ascendancy, you can still start like with this class or this class and probably still make the build work. Now, as for the skills, quickly go over everything. You can see we're not using weapon sets. I will show you how to properly build this character using them. And now we'll just take a look at the rest of the skills. So we start out and it is just damage, damage. We come down here for increased damage. Again, we are just stacking damage. We want these 3 nodes. These are increased skill effect duration. And it is going to increase Twister's duration by about 1 second. The base is 3 seconds. Right now we have 3.96 seconds. So the longer the twisters last, the farther they will travel, the more enemies they hit, and the greater the chance they will hit the same enemy multiple times. And then we'll go up here first, and we just have attack speed, we have damage. We come over here, and this is skill speed with a little bit of evasion and energy shield. We have attack speed, we have damage. We come up here, 1 to maximum energy shield per 12 evasion on equipped body armor, so we just have a little bit more survivability over here. We come down here, attack speed, accuracy, projectile speed. We have increased damage. We come down here for a little bit of deflection, so just, added defenses. And then we also have 25% more skill speed if your offhand is empty. That's why we're not using a focus or a shield. Skill speed, attack speed per accuracy rating. We have most of the spear nodes, so just damage, attack speed with spears, attack damage with spears. So we absolutely want all of these. And then we come down here for a little bit of deflection and evasion. I will go over jewels in like 2 seconds. We come up here for increased evasion rating from equipped body armor. We pick up another jewel slot. Now for me, I have 5 points invested into companion damage, even though I'm not using a companion. And that's because of this node. Increases and reductions to companion damage also applies to me. On my spear, I have companions deal 46% increased damage, plus all of these nodes. So we have another 48% increased damage. That is nearly 100% increased damage that is being applied to me. And then for jewels, all of my jewels are 4% increased attack speed, 4% increased attack speed with spears. And because I have a little bit of extra currency, I do have some other useful mods like increased damage with spears or projectile speed. But we can see all of my jewels have the double attack speed and damage with spears. We have a little bit of accuracy, which we convert into attack speed. Again, attack speed with spears, damage with spears, increased accuracy. And then over here we have attack speed, increased damage with spears, and 16% increased projectile damage if you've dealt a melee hit in the past 8 seconds. Whirling Slash, that is our melee hit. And we can take a quick look. We have increased attack speed and increased attack speed with spears. And those gems, so one annulment, that would be 60 exalts. However, if we look for exalted orbs specifically, 30x per jewel for 8% increased attack speed is so worth it. And we can see this one even has a 9% increased attack damage. Really good jewels for 30 to maybe 40 exalted orbs. With 4 of these jewels, that is 32% increased attack speed. Now I do have this one extra point over here. This is nothing special. I just hit level 95 and I didn't know where else to put this. So I just went with a little bit of attack speed and a little bit of damage. So now I want to share the alternate way to build this character, and that is using weapon swaps. So typically what you'd see with a Whirling Slash build is the Sky Sliver. So we can see 2.2 attacks per second. We can put this in weapon set 1, and then we would use weapon set 2 for damage. And we can see how much faster this is with weapon swaps. So just by getting that 2.2 attack speed, we are now twice as fast. And that is how this build is supposed to be played. I like as few button presses as possible. That's why I don't use weapon swaps. However, you probably should be swapping. So what you would do is have Sky Sliver in weapon slot 1. That is your movement. And then when you switch to weapon set 2, that would be your damage. And this is usually paired with Guiding Palm of the Eye, so you get an extra 100 spirit. So how this plays is you use weapon set 1, you fly around the map, you see a group of enemies, you press Q, you weapon swap, right click, weapon swap it back to weapon set 1 for the movement speed, and you just keep going. So on a budget, or if you're a lower level, I highly recommend getting used to weapon swaps. Because something else you could do is lose a little bit of attack speed and use a focus just to fill out your resistances if you're a lower level or if you're on a budget. Now, if you use weapon sets, you're going to get an additional 24 skill points. So I'm level 95. If you use weapon swapping, you can build my exact passive tree at level 71. Let me show you what that looks like. So how do we get back 24 skill points using weapon sets? We have 3 attack speed nodes over here, and we have 3 damage nodes over here. I'm using 6 total skill points for these nodes. So first, we can refund these 5, because this is specific to me because of the modifier I have on my weapon for companion damage. You do not need these. So what we could do is activate weapon set 1. That is movement speed. So anything involving skill speed or attack speed, we're going to put that on weapon set 1. So 1, 2, 3. We have attack speed over here. We'll put that on weapon set 1. And what I'll do is I will remove these 2 points. So 36% increased evasion and energy shield. And I'll just move these over here. Moving these 2 points, we lose 12% evasion and energy shield, but we can then put all of this skill speed, so we have attack speed here, and we have skill speed here. We can put these 4 nodes to weapon set 1. So we just put all of the attack speed nodes to specifically skill set 1. And now what we do is we put all damage nodes to skill set 2. And this is what your tree should look like. We can see we get back 26 skill points. So I'm level 95, but with these 26 skill points, that takes us to below level 70. So even if you are around level 70, you can copy my exact build, and it will accomplish the same exact thing it is doing for me right now. And then every single level you get is just added damage. And this is what I meant when I said I'm just not using effectively 24 skill points. So with these refunded points, if you wanted to, you could have all the damage this build currently has, and for example, you could go into crit. We have crit nodes here, we have these crit nodes over here, we have these crit nodes over here, and then we also have these crit nodes down here, and we still have 3 points left. Or you could not go crit and just go straight damage, just keep stacking damage. So we have, like, for instance, more damage nodes over here. You can just use the search bar and look for attack. You can just look for attack damage. We have increased damage with hits against blinded enemies. Twister blinds. Even though this doesn't show up in your DPS calculation, like, we have 55% increased damage over here, and I already got these, so we have another 55% damage over here. So you can use these last skill points however you want. So that's usually how you see this build being played, using weapon swaps. And really, you should be using them so you get back all of those skill points. However, for me, I want to press as few buttons as possible. And the final thing I need to mention is if you are using weapon sets, which you should be, the only thing you need to change is getting another Rigwald's Ferocity. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a second one in Twister, and we're going to replace Heft. You can see my DPS is about 96,000. With Rigwald's, it goes up to almost 99,000. But keep in mind, supported skills have 10% less attack speed, so this is being factored into the DPS. So we are actually gaining a huge amount of just damage, like raw damage. The Twisters are going to do so much more work. So we can see the average damage per use, 23,000. So we're talking a 15% damage increase just going off this number. Even though it looks like we only gained, a measly 2,000 damage. So that is the only thing I would change if using weapon swaps. If you're not happy with your current build and want to give this one a try, I highly recommend it. And real quick before I go, if you go to your stash and you go to wherever your artifacts are, if we open this, we can go to ROG, buy items. Over here we can type in rare, and then watch this. Real quick, we can refresh the page, get a second page of just rare items. I have, we'll say, 21,000 coins. We just got 22,000 gold in, 15 seconds? If you need gold, these traders are your best friends. And we can see the currency exchange real quick. I want Expedition. Exotic coinage is 3-1 Exalt. So for 17 Exalt, you can get 50 pages of rare items that you can sell for coins. And then we go to Expeditions, Order Artifacts, 50-1. That's a little low. I've seen this go as high as 200, 300, even 400-1. These are dirt cheap. So for 20 Exalts, you can get like 500,000 to 1 million coins. something to keep in mind. And with that being said, I think we're just about done for today. So as always, everyone, take care.